ask, like, I'm really curious, and I feel like I've asked you this question before, but I think this will be like very useful for people that listen to our podcast. And is, how did you transfer your skills from like your previous job to this job? And that means that you would kind of have to explain what you did in your previous job, that I know it's complicated,
Yeah. I'd
but
love
it
to like
was
hear the
fun.
whole story like about that. Kind of just how'd you get into tech? Like what'd you study in college? Like how'd you end up in the Navy? What brought you for or because you said you were a civilian worker for the Navy. You weren't in the Navy itself,
Right.
right? Okay, yeah. I'm like really curious like how you got from say like college to Oracle and like those steps in between.
Yeah, so I went to the University of Massachusetts at Dartmouth. And my undergrad was in computer science. So just like a lot of other majors, we had to do a capstone project. And where UMass Dartmouth is very close to a warfare center for the Navy. So it's a command that focuses on a certain type of technology. So there's a Naval Undersea Warfare Center in Newport, Rhode Island. And there's a partnership between, it's called NUIC, Naval Undersea Warfare Center. NUIC is connected to UMass Dartmouth. So when UMass Dartmouth is soliciting businesses every year for capstone projects, NUIC typically submits a few of them. And I happened to be assigned to a capstone project for NUIC. So at the end of the year, our capstone mentor asked us for our resumes, and I got an interview, and eventually they hired me to work at NUIC. So that's how I got there. And then I worked there for almost 12 years. And I focused on submarine training. So on board the submarines, they have to do different types of training to get what's called qualified to be on board the submarine, and then to like learn about different systems on board. So I worked on training systems mostly for those almost 12 years.
Nice. That's really cool.
Yeah, it was really cool. I got to work directly with the fleet on something that was important to them. And I felt useful, which was really great. And I got to have some experiences that most people will never ever have. So I've been on board almost every submarine in the fleet that was commissioned at the time. So obviously, since I left, new boats come on, and I haven't been on those ones, but I got to spend some time undersea on submarine. So that was pretty cool.
What was that like? Is that like a weird feeling, like being underwater? Like, because all I have for perspective is like being on a boat. Like, does
So
it feel
like,
different, like being in like underwater, like in a submarine?
I mean, mentally, yeah, because you're like, I'm this many feet underwater, but no, like it's very stable. So once you're underwater, it doesn't really feel like you're moving that much. So and then eventually it just felt like it was time to move on. So I started putting my resume out there, and I didn't get any bites. But then I worked with a coach to work on my resume to bring it from like military speak, because I had a lot of trouble figuring out how to convert what I was doing within military to something that the corporate world would understand. And then the job for Oracle came up, and I submitted it, and our boss Giant reached out to me, and
Here we
that's how
are.
that happened. Yeah.